One of the things that I love most about fall is all the good food, specifically the taste of apples and pumpkin and all the different spices like cinnamon. So I'm really excited. I want to do a series where I'm going to try, but not commit to, one video a week with fall themed recipes, but with a little twist. I love baking with sourdough, for anyone who's been watching our channel. And I don't have a ton of videos about sourdough and sourdough recipes on our channel, but I'd like to change that. So for this series, we're going to be doing fall-themed baking with sourdough. So the first recipe that I want to start with is sourdough discard apple cinnamon rolls. So it's a twist on cinnamon rolls that includes apple and sourdough. So for this recipe though, we're just going to be using sourdough discard. So you get the benefits of the sourdough, but the sourdough is not the leavening agent. So if you've ever baked with sourdough bread before, you'll understand what I mean by that. So these are the ingredients that we're going to need for the rolls and the filling, and then we'll make the frosting once they're done. I have a stand mixer here today, but you do not need a stand mixer to do this recipe. You can do it just in a bowl, mix it with a spoon. It'll be super easy. So we're going to start with our milk. Now this is raw milk that we get from our dairy cow, but you do not need to use raw milk in this recipe. It will work with pasteurized milk. To start, we're going to do 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of milk. And then after that, we're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. Now we get our organic cane sugar from Costco, but any good old granular sugar will do for this recipe. And then next, we're going to add 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So for those of you who may know, we grind our own flour for all of our baked goods, including bread, cinnamon rolls, cake, anything that we make, we grind the flour for. So this is flour from soft white wheat berries, because I know some people are curious about what kind of wheat berries you use for what. So for this recipe, if you're grinding your own flour, ideally you'll want soft white wheat berries. So this is 4.5 cups. Going in our mixer. By the way, if you are using a stand mixer, you should have the dough hook attachment on. Next, we're going to add our sourdough discard. So sourdough discard is sourdough that was fed, rose, and then was done being in its active period. So it's ready for another feeding. And I'm going to use 200 grams, which is about 3/4 of a cup. And this is our San Francisco sourdough starter that we got from Cultures for Health. I decided to use this one today because I want to see how it turns out with the cinnamon rolls. That should be enough. We're just going to go ahead and dump that in. So like I said, not going to leaven your recipe. We'll add another leavening agent, but it is going to give it the sourdough benefits. All right, next up we're going to add 1 egg, but we're going to beat it first before we put it in the mixer. Now personally, I like to use duck eggs from our ducks, but chicken eggs will work here. I just find duck eggs are better for baking, and that's normally what we use our duck eggs for. Now we can go ahead and turn the mixer on low, so you may hear that running in the background. And then we're also going to add 3 tablespoons of butter melted. Now, here's a little trick that I've learned from baking, is that a lot of times they call for unsalted butter in recipes. And sometimes you do need to use unsalted butter. But for most recipes, I've found that it works to use salted butter as long as you don't add the salt that they normally call for. So that's with this recipe, I'm using salted butter. And you would have added 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt if you weren't using salted butter. So once it starts to get mixed in, increase the speed a little bit. And then once it reaches like shaggy dough consistency, I'm going to pull it out and knead it by hand. And I almost forgot that we needed a tablespoon of baking powder. Don't forget this step. That's what's going to leaven your cinnamon rolls. So unless you want flat cinnamon rolls, make sure you add that. I'm going to take this out now and knead it by hand. So pretty much we want a smooth dough ball that's still a little bit tacky. Not sticky, like sticking to the table in your hands, but just a little on the tacky side. You can see how nice that looks now, and it's a little bit tacky, but not sticky. I'm just gonna set that in the bowl and let it rest. We're gonna dice up these apples, and we're going to add them to a tablespoon of butter in a small skillet over medium heat. And they're only going to be in there for a few minutes just until they start to soften. All right, now our apples are nice and soft. You can see it right there. You don't want to cook them too much, just enough to start softening them because they are going to be in the oven. Next, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, this is our filling for the cinnamon rolls. And we're going to add 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon. We get our cinnamon from Azure Standard. It's a lot of cinnamon, but it's going to be good. And then 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Some of my favorite scents right here. Beautiful. All right, now we're just going to give this a good stir in, and then we want to let it completely cool before we use it to fill our dough. You should be able to put all of your ingredients away now that you've gotten out, except for your brown sugar that I have sitting here, and that's because we're still going to need that. So this is what this looks like now. Isn't that beautiful? And it smells so much like fall. Oh, so good. Now we're just going to take a flour and lightly flour the surface here. We just don't want our dough to stick to the surface at all. And then we're going to take this dough ball that we let sit while we made the filling. Now, it says to use a full-on rolling pin, and I do have a full rolling pin, but personally, I've been really liking using this little roller right here. Gives me a little bit more precision. So sometimes with bigger stuff, I'll use the full rolling pin and then just use this to finish. For this, I'm just going to use this. So this was a gift, but I will leave the link. You can get it on Amazon. So I'm going to say this is 12 to 18 inches. Obviously, I'm just guesstimating here, but that's what we need to roll it out to. We're going to take 5 tablespoons of softened butter, not melted, and spread it all across this rectangle all the way to the edges. So make sure you cover the entire rectangle here in butter. So a little tip when you're getting your butter out to soften is that you are going to need 3 tablespoons of softened butter for the frosting as well. So when you go ahead and get butter out, just get a whole stick, 8 tablespoons, because you're going to need 8 tablespoons. 5 for the rolls here, and then 3 for the frosting. Next, we're going to take 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and sprinkle this evenly across our cinnamon rolls. As you can see, I did change the camera angle. Hopefully you guys can see it better now. And now that our apple thing is nice and cool now, our apple part of the filling, we're going to add that inside of our rolls as well. I'm going to try and split it as evenly as I can. So see, it's a good amount of apple, but it's not too much in my opinion. See if I can spread this out a little bit more. We're going to take our long side of the rectangle and roll it up into a log. This isn't always my strong suit with these. We'll have to see how this goes. All right, let's see how nicely we can get this rolled. Seems to be coming together nicely so far. You want to try and keep it too as tight as you can. You don't want to leave space for air. I learned that the hard way when making bread. And your dough should not be sticking to the table at all. Oh yeah, this is going to come together really nice. You can already tell. Beautiful. Look at that log. Let me move it back a little so everyone can see. Make it nice and straight. All right, now this needs to be cut into 12 rolls, cinnamon rolls. All right, so what I like to do first is just mark where I'm going to cut my cinnamon rolls, or where I think I should cut my cinnamon rolls, so that I know where to cut them to get even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think that's not going to be enough. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. All right, we can do 13. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 14. So we're going to have 14 rolls, not 12. That's fine by me. And then you're just going to cut those cinnamon rolls. You can also use dental floss for this, and I have seen people use that trick, and honestly, it seems like a great idea. They seem to come out much nicer that way. I'm trying to just hold mine together here, and then normally I try and fix the shape before I put them in the pan. And this is where mine normally start to fall apart, because I like to play with them and make them look perfect when they don't need to be. You can see my ends sort of like to come off. but I like to make sure that they're round. But you can see those little pieces of apple sticking out everywhere. Doesn't that just look so cool? I think that this is going to be a great addition to cinnamon rolls. Who thought that apple would be an awesome idea? So now I'm just going to get a 9x13 glass pan and get that greased and get these in there. There's our pan, so let's get these in there. I don't know how I'm supposed to do this with 14. I mean, with 12, I was thinking 3x4. Now I'm not sure because I have 2 extra. These are going to be really big. I don't know why I thought this would only make 12, though. Because even 12, these would have been really, really big. Cinnamon rolls. I'm going to have to, like, squish them in a little bit. There we go. And I have these 2 small ones, so I can stick these right here like this. Look at that. How pretty. All right. We are going to stick these in an oven preheated at 350 degrees, uncovered, for 30 to 35 minutes or until they're golden brown. Then we'll set aside to cool, and I'll come back and teach y'all how to make the frosting. All right, the cinnamon rolls are cooling, and to see the final result, you will need to wait until we're done making the frosting. So this is not a traditional cream cheese frosting, and I've never tried it before, but I want to give it a shot today. So we're going to start with 3 tablespoons of softened butter, and I'm going to use the paddle attachment on my mixer here, and you don't need a stand mixer, but you at least probably need a handheld mixer. So I'm just going to turn this on for about 3 or 4 minutes until the butter is nice and fluffy. And now we're going to just add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we get our vanilla extract from Azure Standard. We're going to use 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. So like I said, not a traditional cream cheese frosting. This is a new recipe to me. And whenever you're trying something new, like a new frosting for a baked good, make sure you try it before you put it on your baked good to make sure you like it. Because you can always make a new batch of frosting before putting it on your cinnamon rolls. And then I'm also going to add just a tablespoon or 2 of milk. And then we may add more milk later depending on the consistency to make sure it's what we want. Alright, so here is the end result of the cooked cinnamon rolls. You may not be able to tell on camera, but they are slightly golden brown. And as you can see, they rose nicely and they all cook together. And then here is our frosting. So I'm just going to go ahead and spread this over the cinnamon rolls. They are barely warm on the top at this point. So I'm just going to take a little bit and just spread it across. Hopefully I'm doing this right. I'm not an expert at frosting cinnamon rolls by any means. So hopefully I don't ruin anything. Alright, y'all. I now want to just pull one of these out and give them a taste. They look so good. I mean, look at this. The frosting, by the way, if you've ever had like the Annie Ann cinnamon rolls from Costco, so good. It tastes like that. Look at that. Look at the bottom. You can see those little pieces of apple in there. Here, let me show you guys the middle. Look at that. And there's some of the apple that just fell out. You can see it right there. So let's give this a taste. I'm going to take a piece of apple with it. If a cinnamon roll already didn't taste like fall, this does. The frosting is perfect. It tastes just like one that you would buy at like a bakery or something. The sourdough, honestly, I can't even tell that it's there. So for those of you that aren't a huge fan of sourdough, this is a great way to incorporate it. Absolutely perfect. Just enough apple, just enough cinnamon, just enough sweetness. And honestly, this is the best frosting recipe I've ever used. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below with any questions or thoughts, and share it out.